Hello, it's the 91st day of the Ukrainian resistance. This is Ukraine Media Center. And our last briefing for today um, is with Yevheniya Kravchuk, the Member of Parliament of Ukraine, who is part of the official Ukrainian delegation at the World Economic Forum at Davos. We'll be talking about Davos. Hello. Hello. Yevgenia, my first question is, what are the main observations, the conclusions or impressions from this forum? First of all, this is the first Davos Forum where Ukraine is in the focus of attention. Of course, it would be better if we would have some other reason, but this this is a window of opportunity, so we are trying to use it as much as possible. What's unique in Davos? In the same place, we have the meeting of the political leaders, the businesses, the owners of companies, investment funds, banks, and the leaders of international organizations. So every day, one of the key topics is Ukraine. How can one help Ukraine? And the official opening and the highlight of the first day, or perhaps the highlight of the whole forum, was the keynote speech by President Zelensky. I think he has placed the accents properly, and if we don't stop this aggression by Russia, well, it makes no sense to have these meetings, because democracy makes no sense if the rules are not working. That's why we were talking about aid to Ukraine. I took part in one of the panels where we talked rather about humanitarian aid to Ukraine. But I explained that in our circumstances, when the aggressor creates both the humanitarian disaster and suffering of people, the best humanitarian aid for Ukraine is actually weapons and tough sanctions against Russia. Yevgeny, the president said that, in fact, there's no collective West. And we have seen that in Davos, they started discussing different scenarios of how this war might end. For us, it's obvious that, victory is the only possible end for this war. But what were the ideas in Davos overall? What is this collective West's opinion on how this war might end? I think the West, hasn't given enough aid. If it was enough, we would win already. But there were very clear statements. For example, the U.S. delegations there were about the senators and congresspersons from the House of Representatives, and they shared the following messages. Ukraine must win, otherwise there'll be no rule-based order globally. There will be no foundation for NATO, the EU, and overall, the whole security architecture which the world has built after World War II, it will collapse. If Putin now will be able to move further. Of course, there were opinions like the one voiced by Henry Kissinger. And, he is 98, and, it's not about the age, but he still lives in this paradigm of the spheres of influence and the bipolar world, but the world has changed. After February the 24th, we have a very clear picture. There's black and there's white. So the messages, and also it was said by Andrzej Duda, the Polish president, it was very clear. If you think in the West someone can make Ukrainians give up their territory, no, it will not happen. Ukrainians will resist, they will fight. So there were many politicians, for example, Prime Minister of Belgium, they said, we will help Ukraine as long as it it takes. And honestly, I was slightly disappointed by the softness of Jens Stoltenberg's um, messages, the Secretary General of NATO. I think it was not strong enough because indeed NATO is an organization which brings together 30 very powerful countries. But essentially, it's a manifestation of weakness when they say that their task is only to defend NATO countries and of course help Ukraine. But it would be good if we also would get help not just from the countries, but the NATO as a whole. So when we talk about NATO, EU, and other organizations, do they discuss in Davos that old systems of collective treaties or world order are ineffective and there should be some change, some global change on the backdrop of the Russian aggression? Yes, this was the question we were raising because essentially now this world order is collapsing. And if we don't have rules, there will be like 5 more dictators in this planet who would want to overtake other countries. And the Americans were saying that. I mean, they probably worry the most because they are the leaders of the free world, and the free world might collapse if Russia has some success. In terms of the EU, there was a very interesting panel today, and the president of the European Parliament was there, the prime ministers of different countries. The EU wants to get back into the game. They don't want to be just the pitch. They want to be the player, a strong, powerful player. And we see that, well, the messages are somewhat different. I mean, uh, newer members of the EU and older, so to say, members, they have different tonality in the messages. By the way, I remember the words of the Prime Minister of Ireland, who said, let's be frank, when the Ireland joined the EU, we were the poorest country of Europe. So I will not judge other countries and say that they are wrong or they do not fit, because, well, we were the poorest, but we grew up in this European family and now we are an economically strong country. So we have to be vocal about it. The extension of different countries, Spain and Greece, well, they weren't perfect too, but they were accepted and they developed with the EU. So now is the time. Now there is this window which the European Union should open for Ukraine. And we were talking about this, that we need candidacy and then we need full-scale membership. So, of course, there are some skeptical countries, but there was some very clear message from Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, and now they are drafting the response to our application. And she was quite positive to Ukraine. She said that, well, yes, Ukraine has to be member of the European family. But well, let's wait for the response. We want to see it on paper, not just in a speech. And also, she said that Putin should have the strategic loss in this war. My last question is, as Davos has a big economical component, we know that this war will be over with our victory, but we will need to redevelop and reconstruct. So, the participants of the World Economic Forum, did they discuss the future aid for Ukrainian reconstruction? Today we'll have a big panel dedicated to Ukraine and the redevelopment plan. There will be Prime Minister speaking online. There will be also the Minister of Economy, Yulia Serdenko. We will be there on behalf of the Parliament, and over 50 companies and business representatives, the investment funds and the banks and individual businesses. So we will discuss these specific plans. There is the Ukraine 24, and it is already working, but we'll be talking about hundreds of billions So our message is, the faster you help Ukraine win, the well, cheaper it will be for you, because every day more and more infrastructure gets destroyed. So the expenditures will be higher and higher. So we need to win as fast as possible. And well, it will be good for democracy too, because it will be an example when a country deliberately chose Western values, the values of the EU, and the country wants to live better. And then, if we have the tangible results, it would be a good showcase. Thank you, Yevgenia. We wish you all the victories in the diplomatic front. And this was Ukraine Media Center. We had Yevheniya Kravchuk, the Member of Parliament of Ukraine, who represents our country in the World Economic Forum in Davos. And we'll continue our briefings tomorrow.